Let's turn our attention to this conversation now. The Gauteng Police Commissioner, Lieutenant General Tommy Mthombeni, has his hands full as he tries to bring down high crime levels in the province. The National Police Chief last week announcing his appointment following Elias Mawela's retirement in January of this year. Mthombeni joining me now in studio to outline some of his plans around specific crime trends. Lieutenant General, thank you for coming through.
Thank you very much.
It's good to see the face.
No, thank you very much, Xoli, and we really appreciate for the opportunity, and greetings to the viewers at home.
Thank you, General. So, let's begin. Several communities in Gauteng have taken to the streets and, on occasion, more than one occasion, they've literally taken the law into their own hands, what is called vigilantism, because they're saying police do not come to us on time when we complain about criminality in our communities. Would you agree with the analysis that says vigilantism is on the rise in Gauteng?
Thank you very much, Xoli. Not really to say vigilantism is on the rise in Gauteng, but one can confirm that from time to time we do have, the communities, those who happens to find people whom they see them or allegedly they have committed some crimes. And on that score, you'll find that, and then these particular individuals get humiliated, and some of the people, and then they get killed. But one would not say it is on the rise, because statistically, even though I don't have the statistics here, one could not confirm that, because one has to confirm it through, statistically.
Yeah. How often do those that get involved in vigilantism, I know it's not going to be a question that sits comfortably with the community, because the community takes the view that we are defending ourselves. We're forced to do this because police are nowhere to be seen. How often do we see those that get involved in acts of vigilantism getting arrested and prosecuted?
Yeah, I will say often we do have those people get arrested. You must take note that these crimes that are committed against a human being, these people whom the crime is committed against is somebody's father, is somebody's brother, you may name it. So at the end of the day, it's not all the communities, those who are involved, they will support such an action. So oftentimes we get information in terms of our intelligence, and we crack up this typical type of things. And then, for example, in Honeydew, your Cosmo City, we previously had such, and we were in a position to can crack down those cases within that policing prison.
And the specific area of Diepsloot is one that stands out for me, because on occasion you have seen people being murdered there in the streets by the community who are saying, we know these people, they've been committing crimes, but police simply don't attend to this. Why is it that police take too long to respond?
For Diepsloot, we know for the fact that these crimes do happen, and I must indicate to you, recently we had those crimes related to the vigilantism, of which 5 people have been arrested. As I've indicated to you, it's not all the communities those who would support that. But question saying that why the police do not respond, timelessly. What is important is that when the offense get committed, somebody, somehow, somewhere, have to report these crimes to the community. So as and when these crimes get reported, the police will act quickly, and we will be in a position to can attend to that. But most importantly is that there has to be these collaborations between the police and the community.
Yeah.
And Diepsloot, yes, we do have these challenges, but as a management, more special from my side, I've created a proactive, typical type of a frequency of engagement with the community.
Can I just quickly come in here, General?
Yes.
Diepsloot, I think it is particularly a difficult area for the police to monitor. You correct me if I'm wrong. Your predecessor on a number of occasions has had to visit that community. What makes it such a particularly difficult area of policing?
Well, it's just that we're focusing on a Diepsloot, but there are other almost similar areas which you'll have that. But you have to take note that the issue of the environmental design, for example, is one of those issues which create the area to be difficult to be policing. Because to start with, when you do policing, there has to be some kind of a lighting system. There has to be some kind of the roads. The roads has to be accessible.
Yeah.
And some of the areas there, you will not be in a position to can drive in, for example. So it will take you longer to can get inside. Like I think a few weeks we were in that space. It was difficult to reach into a certain space. We were there even previously during the night. We could not have access to certain areas. We were with the minister.
Yeah.
But we, with the help of the drones, we were in a position to can zoom in and be in a position to can see on the other side. So those are some of the issues which makes the area to be difficult. As I'm saying, it's not necessarily only Diepsloot. You're having also other similar areas which you have those typical type of setup in terms of the environmental design.
We'll have to call you back another time to drill deeper into these areas. And I'm glad we used Diepsloot as an example. But I take your point that there are similar kinds of crimes, or there are other areas that are of the same making that make it difficult for police to monitor. Let's quickly move on to contract killings or assassinations. I'll make an assumption, and you'll correct me if I'm wrong.
Okay.
Difficult to predict by way of intelligence gathering, but once the cases get to court, that's where the rubber hits the road for the police, because they are not easily prosecuted. Why is it so difficult to get convictions on contract killings?
When the case is properly investigated, I will say we are in a position to can have a conviction. Let me indicate that the process flow which we have to link up with other government departments is very important. It's very important because this is linked to the whole government approach, of which Cabinet in 2022 in March, they have approved the whole government approach, which is underpinned six-pillar approach. The six-pillar approach, one of the pillars is a criminal justice system. The criminal justice system, you take it police, and then you say courts, then you say corrections. So from the police side, we have to ensure that when the case docket is open, quality statement taking investigation, so that that case, when it filters into the court, we have to have the outcome of these cases. We're having a special I'll say, unit which deals with that, which is commanded by a brigadier. The brigadier who is responsible for organized crime investigation, because the crime itself is organized. For example, 2 weeks, 3 weeks back, we had one of the cases in West Rand in Tukomsres. It's a housing development project for over 320 million. So we're in that space, and there were resistance where our police, they stood up the ground, and we managed to arrest 12 of those people. And we are definitely convinced that we will be in a position to can come out with something out of that case. That is one of the cases which I'm just indicating out of so many.
Do you agree that it is a worrying crime trend that is on the rise? I keep using this word, on the rise. Is it worrying for you, and are there specific plans around contract killings? Because they are somehow becoming a favorite mode of killing people by those who obviously are involved.
Yeah, I can confirm that it's a worrying factor. One cannot, say it's not a worrying factor. The crimes which is committed, against the community, which is having a sentiment of affecting the economy for the country. Yes, of course, one would say yes. Is there specific plans? As I've indicated that within the province for crime investigation services, we're having a specific wing which deals with that under organized crime investigation. So
let me quickly interject.
Okay.
If indeed this is being dealt with almost as a crime of a special nature, can I use 2 cases? And you'll answer me if indeed you are any closer to getting the masterminds, the people who paid for these killings. Senzo Meiwa, that case is in court right now. Are we any closer to getting the mastermind? Babita Deokaran, this is the health official who was assassinated outside her home. Do you know whether we are any closer to getting the masterminds who paid for these crimes to get committed?
Yeah, well, one would say it is a common knowledge that these cases are in courts. And when we have a case in court, it means there's somebody who's arrested, of which the process flow in court has to proceed. The issue of saying that whether this particular individual is a mastermind or is not a mastermind is something which has to be processed in the court of law. And ultimately, as when these cases get concluded in the court of law, is then that will ultimately get to say whether these people, they are genuinely linked. Because as the South African Police Service, as and when we investigate, and then we have gathered this evidence, and clearly we present these cases to court, and the prosecution authority accepts it to say it can be placed before the court of law. It means the South African Police Service have done a lot. And the process flow, one will not really indicate as to say what will be the outcome. But what we know is that both the cases, they are in court of law. I can indicate that the Babita case is put under investigation by the DPCI, known as the Hawks. Though the other cases is taken by head office, of which we have seen through these court processes, those who are watching the court processes and the media houses, they are having a broadcast on these cases, live broadcast.
So let me say this, General. Yeah. I gave you ample time to just tell me one simple question.
Yeah.
Whether or not we are any closer to the masterminds. Let me give you a case that has now been concluded. Because your defense is that these are cases before the courts. The Wandile Bozwana case, we now have a person convicted.
Yes.
But who was the mastermind? Are police even investigating that still to say there was someone who instructed for Bozwana to be taken out?
Yeah, Xoli, we'll have to understand these processes, and then though sometimes when one gives an explanation, it will look like it's not understandable. I understand that you are searching systematically, that you must get the truth, but the fact of the matter, for me to come up in there and make a confession and say this is a mastermind, it will be something which will create a problem. I think I have given a clear explanation to say as and when we arrest individuals, these cases get processed through the courts of law, and ultimately people get convicted. For me to come in here in front of the screens and in front of the South Africans and come and indicate that this particular individual is a mastermind, I mean, it will be naive for me to can put those typical type of statements. So safe to say, those individuals, we got them, and we know for the fact for Bozwani case, we had a successful prosecution and a conviction, of which this individual was successful, prosecuted and convicted. He is also, or he was also linked to the construction sites, mafia. So, yeah, one can just give this narrative in that particular fashion to say, as and when we arrest these people, the process for the court has to unfold.
So in the Bozwana matter, I need to move on quickly because of time.
Yes.
So in the Bozwana matter, you are telling us that in all probability you have both the shooter and the mastermind who is now sitting behind bars.
As I've indicated that you systematically want to get the truth. For me to come in here and say X is a shooter and then X is a mastermind, I bet it would be naive for me to come in here and tell the South Africans to say this particular person is a shooter, this one is a mastermind.
No, but what I'm saying is that the very person that has now been convicted,
yes,
are you suggesting that he basically was both the shooter and the mastermind, given that you are saying he was involved in the so-called construction mafia?
Again, Xoli, I must indicate that based on what we have investigated and placed the case docket before the court of law, and there was a process flow, for me, it would be naive for me to come in here and indicate this particular individual is a shooter, this particular individual is a mastermind. Is something which the connection has to be dealt with in terms of the scientific proof. For example, you get a firearm. When you get a firearm, that firearm, you get it on the crime scene. It has to be taken for ballistic purposes and examination, of which at the end of the day, you'll have to link that particular individual. So for me, to come in here and say, yeah, no, this one is a shooter, yeah, this one is a mastermind, it's something which one really cannot come in front of the television and say to the South Africans, this one was a shooter, this one is a mastermind. So it will look like I'm seated in here, I'm a jury, and meanwhile I'm a police officer who have to ensure that we collect evidence, we make sure that in terms of those three processes which I've indicated.
I understand your difficulties, Commissioner. Let's perhaps ask you a slightly easier question. Illegal mining. We have seen several deployments on more than one occasion in the streets of Gauteng. Are you winning the war on illegal mining? I think that's a very easy question.
It's any question on the mind, I presume, on the mind of the person who asked the question is an easy question. But I must indicate that we are, because what is important is the integrations. We are making quite a serious inroads in terms of illegal mining in Gauteng. As we know, these illegal mining, they are mainly in West Rand, Johannesburg, Ekurhuleni. Though to a certain extent you're having it in Sidibeng, but those are surface mining, the process.
Yeah.
Why I'm saying this, because the head of the state, he have, after the July processes, release the members of the South African National Defence Force in terms of Operation Prosper. We are on those areas with members of the South African National Defence Force, Department of Mineral Resource and Energy, the Home Affairs, and other role players, like, for example, in Johannesburg, you'll have your Metro Police, so on and so forth. One will say we're making an inroads because thus far, because we sit down, we plan, and we systematically execute those operational activities. Thus far, we have recovered quite a number of firearms, high caliber firearms, small calibers. We have recovered quite a number of arrests, like the recent one were in Primrose, where there was a crossfire and one person was fatally wounded, and we had an arrest of one individual in that space. The Department of Minerals, Resource and Energy, they also come in, identify the holes, those mining holes illegally so, and they work on a program, but they work it on a scientific process because they specialize on that, because you're having a geology, and then they seal. For example, in Ekurhuleni, they had 20 identified, and all 20 is sealed off. So the other issue which is critical, important, is that the illegal mining is having phases. Phase 1, 2, 2, for example, is those who deals with these issues down there. 3 upwards, up until to 5, is dealt with by the Hawks, DPCI. Right. In West Rand, we had a successful, have pinned down those people, and they are the process which we have confiscated the cars. All in right. Terms, yeah.
Lieutenant General Tommy Mthombeni, let me thank you very much for your time. A much longer conversation is needed, but thank you for coming to say hello.